Ciao. Read a book, read a book, read a motherfucking book. Hi, welcome everyone. It's the Daily Brew, or just the Brew, I think. I think we're going to go with just the Brew. And just the quick numbering of them. This one's going to be about the basics. And I was thinking about, well, I talked about this a lot in the last one, but the last one's also a 2-hour diatribe on Hieronymus Bosch and weird symbology, so maybe hiding some really important maybe hiding some really important ideas at the end of a 2-hour talk about Hieronymus Bosch and some of the least accessible material in the entire universe, maybe not the best idea. And so maybe I should put that front and center in a separate video, and that's what I'm doing this morning. Good morning, everyone, by the way. I'm up. My schedule worked. I woke up an hour earlier than I expected to, which was weird. I actually snoozed my alarm for 15 minutes, but I ended up just laying there and, stretching and trying to align my body effectively during the 15 minutes, so that was pretty cool. Got up, got my sunlight, read a book, read a full chapter of Man and His Symbols, which is wonderful, and got a bunch of shit done this morning. Also got sucked into Tinder, Instagram as well for 20 minutes. Just disappeared. Just time that I had that disappeared because I pulled out my phone. I was like, oh, I have a new like on the Tinder. What's going? Just disappeared, which is amazing. It's amazing. So as soon as I realized that had happened, I looked at the time. What the fuck happened? I went and I read another couple pages of the book to realign my brain, and then I came inside to get the hell going. Because we got to get the hell going. And gosh, man, the ability to get sucked into social media is nuts. It's nuts. It's so potent. It's so potent. It's like getting sucked into a drug trip. It's like gone. Wow. But that's not what I'm really here to talk about. What I'm really here to talk about is the basics. Go in the thing. There's a link. It'll be to a Google Doc. It should be open and free. I've decided it should be free. In the yesterday's video, I was like, maybe I should make it $1. Maybe I should make it part of a YouTube membership or something. Still not a bad idea. Not what I'm going to do. These things are too important, and so they're going to be free. This thing it's a Google Doc of some kind. I don't know how we're going to do this in the future. You should, when you click on it, you should get comment access, not edit access, because I don't want people to be able to go in there and just delete the whole thing. But you should be able to get comment access, and then you can add whatever information you want to add to it, and I'll read them. I'll check them, I guess, or something. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll add moderators, and they'll be able to help with the thing, or I don't know. It's an experiment. The idea is really simple. Wouldn't it be great if there were a single page somewhere on the interwebs, anywhere, that just told you the basic shit that you have to get in order to have a functional life? You know, like, go to sleep at a certain time. Eat certain kinds of foods, and these are the ones that you should eat, and here's how to structure a diet. Like, actually, how to actually structure not a diet, but a plan for your consumption of food into the future forever. That could be helpful. There's something that's quite like this, that I'm going to steal a whole bunch of, just easily. It's actually on the fit board of 4chan is the best one that I know of, 4chan.org/fit. And then there's the sticky. Yeah, this link covers the following topics: proven effective exercise routines, diet, how to lose weight, how to gain weight, and supplements. Click to read this before starting a thread about these topics. And also, basic barbell lifts, how to do mobility and stretching and self-massage, a guide to foam rolling, basic stretching guide, all of these simple things. This is the stuff. This is the sauce, right? But this is all just sauce for fitness. And fitness is just, well, fitness is just one element of overall well-being. Fitness is your physicality. What about your mental well-being and your overall, the well-being of your environment and the house and the place that you live that's a part of you? And how about all the other simple things, like what you put in your body is quite important. How to hydrate is quite important. What drugs you should or should not be taking, quite important. And how to get those things under your control, or at least how to understand what we know works, because there are some things that we know work for 99% of the population, and there are always outliers and there's always weird shit, but we can generalize to 99% of the population and say certain things like eating a mix of meat and vegetables and good fats from plant and animal sources as well make healthy human. It seems to work. So, or move more with heavy thing. seems to work. It just works. It works for everybody who's ever tried it. And anybody who's tried it and it hasn't worked for them has done it wrong. We can guarantee it. So that's pretty interesting. If we've got this whole set of things that humanity knows are true, how do you find them? How do you find them? If you don't know what you don't know, and that's the truth, none of us know what we don't know. Okay, so if you've never done any fitness stuff, you don't know that you don't know anything about foam rolling and myofascial release. You don't know that you don't know anything about strength training and progressive overload. You don't know that you don't know anything about your cardiovascular system. You don't know that you don't know any of these things. So how do we get you to find out that you don't know any of these things? Well, we make a list of all the things that you need to know, and then by going through it and by recognizing the parts of it that you already know, those parts work, right? So you go through it and you're like, well, I know to take a shower every this often and how to take a shower, and I know to brush my teeth, so those things are true. And then there's this thing about exercise, and I don't know that. Weird. Maybe because the other two are true, this one might be true too. I'll investigate. Something along those lines. A compilation, a put-togetherness. A single source. Now, there are problems with a single source because it's filtered, right? And it will inevitably be through my filter and what I represent as being important. And I'm incomplete, massively. I'm a young man. I get it. I'm 28. I'm not that young anymore, comparatively. But I'm still a young-ass man. And so I'm still figuring out all of it. And I only know what I know loosely. But sometimes I find things that confirm what I know from people who really know what they're talking about. You know, the kind of people who have like multiple degrees and are currently professors at institutions and are lauded as being capable of teaching these things and have enough followers who are going like, this shit works for me, that it's like, well, this shit seems to work for them. That's interesting. And so sometimes I get this glimmer that maybe the things that I know are actually true sometimes. And that's quite helpful. And so what if there was a big list of all of that, right? A big list that starts at the basics of Maslow's hierarchy, essentially. The very basics. So let's pull that up. Physiological needs: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. Amazing. Okay, so that's where we start. It's where we start, and in that order, essentially. Air is not unimportant. How do you breathe? I feel like maybe we don't know entirely how to breathe. A lot of people breathe very shallowly and don't breathe diaphragmatically. I run into this all the time when I'm teaching people in the gym how to breathe and brace, because it's an incredibly important process. You pull a big breath into your abdomen, into your diaphragm, and then you push it out in all directions. And you lock it in with musculature and against your abdominal wall, and it produces an immense amount of intra-abdominal pressure throughout your torso that holds your spine in place and keeps you from bending like a loop-de-loo, which is quite helpful when you're trying to pull, 360 pounds or whatever, which I did a few days ago. I pulled 365 pounds in a deadlift, and I didn't know that I could do it. Striving. The striving. It's the striving. And so we strive. Do it!
Fucking lift.
Yeah!
Good shit. Alright, 4 more.
Right. And then it turned out that I could do it. It was fucking great. It was fucking awesome. But breathing and bracing is like really important. A lot of people physically don't know how to do it. It's why I'm always very happy when I get to teach somebody who's a singer how to lift, because they already know it. They already know. All I have to do is take a big singer's breath, and they go, and it's like, well, you did it. Okay, good job. Yay. Yay. Easy for you, bully for you. And then they're ripping heavy weight because they know exactly how to isolate and centralize their breath into their diaphragm effectively. Fantastic. But, we know a few things about the ways to breathe. And something that's really interesting about breathing is that if you alter your breathing patterns, it changes your entire way of being. And you're a completely different person. That's pretty interesting and pretty useful and a good goddamn thing to know. Hell, it's something that to teach children. It's something that I've been teaching the child who lives in the house. He'll get all upset. And I'll do what the whole brain child book does, which is go up to him and make the same face at him, like, "Rah!" And he's like, "Rah!" And I'll go, "You're feeling really angry." I'll go, "Rah!" And then I go, and he goes, and it works. It works. It works great. Hilariously, it works. Air, water. Okay, so one of the things that I listed out for the basics, the initial list is drink mostly water and lots of it. Great. So for each of these, I want there to be a few links to different formats of things, like an infographic that hits the visual, a video that hits the video, maybe a long-form podcast that dives deep into sleep and stuff, right? I know that for when we get to sleep, there are a number of things that I just know work for that, and I could send people directly to Huberman on sleep, and he'll nail sleep for you effectively. And if you listen to what he says, it'll just fix your sleep. If you have the balls to actually put any of it into effect, which is hard because you have to change yourself, and changing yourself means dying a little bit. And well, die a little bit. Is the current state of being good enough for you to cling on to it like it's your only form of life? No. So die a little bit and change. Okay. Water. Drink mostly water and lots of it. Simple rule, but reasons. The reasons fractal out from there, right? It's like, why drink mostly water? What happens when you drink enough? What happens when you don't drink enough? Important. What happens when you drink things that aren't water? Soda, beer, alcohol, coffee, caffeinated beverages, energy drinks, Celsius drinks, Powerade, Gatorade, hydration beverages, etc. Well, different things happen to you than when you drink just water. Hell, even when you drink tea, a caffeinated beverage, different things happen to you. Really different things. Tea is weird. If it's low caffeine enough, it's mostly hydrating because it's mostly water and leaf juice. But then it has fucking psychiatric effects. Psychotropic? It's a CNS stimulant. All right, fair enough. But then caffeine with theanine has heavy nootropic effects and like really changes your mode of thinking in some very effective and very useful ways. Anyway, irrelevant. But water, good. Water, good. Why drink it? Very good. And also some other things about water, like if you live in the United States, you should probably be filtering your tap water. This came up because there are a number of people who watch this channel that aren't in the United States, and they're like, why would you need to filter your water? It tastes terrible when you do that. It's so shitty. It's like, yeah, that's true, but there's fucking crazy shit in the United States water, because our regulations around what we allow to go in our drinking water is not great. Not great. So filtering your water, activated charcoal seems like the kind of a way to go. I don't know. I don't want to be too paranoid about it. I really don't want to be too paranoid about any of this stuff. But I started drinking filtered water because we have the filter, and I've been stubborn about it my entire life. I've been like, tap water tastes great, filtered water tastes like shit. Turns out I don't mind filtered water that much, and it's perfectly fine. And also, part of the thing that I've been doing, which I think is really important and isn't on this list, obviously, is salt and electrolytes. Fuck, I'm gonna go, I had some electrolytes, but I want some salt, and I want to see, give me a sec. Easy. So I just did a bit of pink salt in a cup, some water in it, drank it, done. My electrolyte powder does have some sodium in it, but not enough. Not enough salts. So that's interesting. Electrolytes go along with water hugely in a really interesting way, and I don't know if we've studied it enough. I just don't know. Food! Holy shit, food, man. Food's complicated. I mean, the simple rules are eat enough and don't eat too little. Okay? Or eat enough and don't eat too much. Sorry, eat enough and don't eat too little are the same thing. Eat enough and don't eat too much. The big thing around eating enough is this. Most people have a problem with eating too much. In our world, there are more obese people than there are starving people. An interesting statistic. A very interesting statistic, by the way. Let's take a step back and let's talk about political science and sociology for a second. It's really, really fascinating that our world has gotten so much wealthier than we were a few decades ago, that there are more obese people who are abundantly over wealthy, you might say. Not that wealth and obesity go together, because it's not the case. It's certain types of food that cause it, and often poverty and obesity go together. But the idea that people are less people are starving than are eating too much. On broad terms, which is not accurate, but broadly, that's pretty fucking interesting. Not that obesity is a good thing, not that moving that direction is a good thing, but the overall increase in wealth and reduction in poverty globally is bonkers. It's fantastic, and it's continuing, and it's going to keep continuing, and good for it. And what system is responsible for the increase in wealth across systems? Well, it's fucking capitalism. It makes people wealthy. From the bottom up, oddly. All of them. It makes people at the top way wealthier. Okay. But at least the people at the bottom are eating. That's pretty good. So, then what should they be eating? Well, that's a really good question. And a tough one. And one that we're constantly finding out. But at least we've figured out a few things. We figured out that Velveeta kills you. It seems. It seems like corn syrup ends you completely. It's really not good for you. Fructose in general is instant transmission of sugars, not good for you. Overwhelming sugars, not good for you. Certain types of hydrogenated fats, not good for you. Seed oils, not good for you. So what's good for you? Plants, meat, fish, milk, avoiding grains as much as possible. That's about it. More plants. Whole seeds seem fine. Lots of colors of vegetation seems useful. It's a weird thing, but it seems true, is that actually various colors of vegetation is a great way of putting your shit together. You know, different colored carrots and different colored potatoes and different colored rices if you have to eat rice and stuff like that. It seems to work. Same with different colored corn. Not that you're going to be able to buy classical stained glass or Indian corn, which is unfortunate because that shit's dope and full of nutrients. Unlike our normal corn, which is full of the corn, sugar, starch, fiber. Nothing to it. Not that that's bad. Corn feeds the masses and good for it, right? But once it's been processed into corn syrups, or corn starches, or corn solids, it's a little less groovy in some ways. So what do you eat? Well, you eat whole foods if you can get them. And the thing is, you can get them. You can. And the reason is this, and I'll do this, and I will do this, is because if you go to the supermarket, and you go and you fill your cart with $40 of chips and soda and easy grabbables and donuts and not trying to fuck around, right? But like pre-made Stouffer's meals and frozen foods and all the things that you think are healthy, and low-fat yogurts. Fuck low-fat yogurts. Low-fat yogurt, by the way, means high-sugar yogurt. It's what it means. Eat high-fat yogurt. Eat full-fat milk. It fills you. It's good for you. Fats are great. Fat doesn't make you fucking fat. Neither does carbohydrates. It's not how it works. It's the quality of them and the quantity of them and the balance of them in terms of everything else. But if you go to the market and you fill your cart with $40 worth of something, and you do a calorie count and nutritional density analysis of all the food that you got, right? Like how much of all the nutrients that you need did you actually purchase in this $40 purchase, right? The answer is not much. And if you go and you'd spend those $40 on like clearance meat and bulk grains and beans and stuff, and maybe like one bottle of mixed spices. One bottle of spices so you can pour that in there. It doesn't taste like everything doesn't taste like shit. A thing of salt so that you can salt everything, because salting everything is really important. It makes everything taste amazing too. Some butter or olive oil, big bottle of oil, big case of butter, whatever, right? You fit all that into $40, and you're going to have like 4 times the number of calories and like 4 dozen times the amount of nutritional density in terms of not just macronutrients of protein, carbohydrates, fat, although you'll have those too, and that's why the caloric density will be so much higher, is because it's real food. But you can also spend like 20 of your $40 on vegetation, and what you can buy at a supermarket in the produce aisle in terms of vegetation for $20 is no laughing matter. big head of broccoli and broccolini, a couple of zucchinis or something like it, an eggplant, a bundle of carrots, a sack of potatoes. Like, you can get some crazy shit and make some real fucking food if you know how to spend the money. And so, some ideas around food, some basic tools to represent what you can and should be eating in order to have a better life. And I don't know all the answers to these, and I won't pretend to, but I know some of them. And if you put two pieces of food in front of me and one of them is way better than the other in terms of general nutritional density, I'll generally be able to point it out to you. Generally. I'm not an expert at these, but I've got some experience and I've spent some time fucking it up, and trying various different restrictive diets, and they don't work. It's not the way to go. Including going anti-vegan carnivore and trying that out. It's an interesting concept and it works to an extent, but it's not what you should be doing with your life. It's balance in everything. So I've tried, I've oscillated in multiple directions, and I've come to some conclusions, and those conclusions, I've found the science that backs up some of them, and I've changed some of them to fit the science that I've gone and found. So to represent food in a scientific way and present it as a simple set of tools, as simple as we can get them, to as many people as possible, life-changing, genuinely life-changing. What you put inside your body changes you, and it changes not just the way that you are. Like, we all know that if you eat crap, it makes you feel bad. All of us have had the experience of, like, post-Halloween gorging on candy, and you just are disgusted by yourself rather rapidly, right? Like, it takes like 10 good-sized pieces of candy to just destroy you, to really tear you apart, and you're just comatose, or after Thanksgiving, you eat a bunch of crap, and some of it's great food, it's just too much of it, and turkey's got some things in it that make you sleepy as well, so you eat a bunch of that, and you're just comatose, right? So it's like, that food changes your behavior, so what if it can change it positively, right? What if you having a certain type of breakfast would change your whole day and life? By the way, person who messaged and put a comment down saying that they were going to alter their breakfast habits, I'd like an update. I want to know how it's going, because I hope it's going well, and I would expect that it would go well, because it's the kind of thing that's good for you to shift, and a good decision to make. So, good job. Shelter. So I don't know what to put here or whether to put it here, but shelter is really important, and some people can't find it, but I think most of the people who have internet access have some access to shelter, but I don't know. Maybe something along the lines of talking about how to find a place to live, but I don't think that I'm qualified to write that out, because, well, partly because I live in an extremely high cost of living area that I would like to move the fuck out of immediately, so that I can start saving my money, and I don't spend most of it on just the basics, because that's crazy. It's crazy how much everything just costs, and inflation's making it worse, but it's because of where I live. It's 100% because of where I live, because gas prices are so high, and because there's no water here. That's what it is. It's that there's no water here. So I'd like to move somewhere warm and slightly wetter. So maybe sub-Saharan Africa. I joke, but I was seriously evaluating Liberia. I decided not to go to Liberia. Maybe not the best idea. Same with Bulgaria. I did look at Bulgaria, totally different place. I looked at Bulgaria quite a bit as an interesting location. Bulgaria is a very interesting country, and a place where I would be down to live. Their cannabis laws aren't great, though. And I don't know what I'll do in that front. Portugal looks good, given their leniency on drug stuff, but they are sort of in the EU stuff, and I don't know. It's hard to find a place that's right where I want to be. Great Lakes area of the United States and Canada is pretty nice. I've got some friends who'd like to move to Michigan, and I'd consider Michigan, absolutely. And the Great Lakes area itself, where you get Chicago, Toronto, a number of other cities, and then like down below you've got Niagara Falls and Buffalo, New York, and into New York down on the right, or on the east, and that's sort of a good area. I like that area quite a bit. I have to do some analysis of the verticality and the actual height of stuff and where the water table is at, because if the water tables rise significantly, I don't want my land to go under, and then I want to buy a bunch of land in the Toronto, Canada area if I can, or like sort of near it, not too far away from it. somewhere in that area, or on the Michigan side of the lakes and somewhere in there. Either way, somewhere in there might be really good because it seems like a good centralized point of there's water and everything's going to get warmer, so everything's going to move upward and there'll be more arable land as things move upward. And I'm just thinking in 50 years into the future and how things might change and alter. But I need to move. Anyway, that's sort of neither here nor there. You need shelter. I know it. You know it. Don't know what to put there, but some simple things on like, I don't know, how to find a place to live. Again, I'm not the person to write those. And we don't necessarily need to check off every box on Maslow's hierarchy. We just need the basics. Sleep. Sleep actually should be whooped right over to the first one. Because fuck breathing. Breathing, you know how to do on your own mostly. Sleep, you probably are destroying yourself. Most of us are. If you're not getting 8, I don't know, man. It's not correct. This last week for me is an absolute testament to that. Because the primary thing in the last 3 days that I've managed to put together hasn't been my sitting down and recording schedule. It hasn't been my work schedule or my gym schedule or my eating schedule or my hydration or how I breathe or what I wear. It's my sleep. In every way, it's my sleep. It's half of your life almost. Well, a third, 24 hours in a day, 8 hours of sleep-ish. It's a third of your life. Have you managed it effectively? Or are you destroying yourself? Because sleep isn't just sleep. Sleep is dream. And dream is you. Dream is you. So, again, I'm reading Young. It's the book that's on top over there with the colors on the top of it. And it's so much more, it's so much easier for me to read. So this is silly to say, but Young is dense. It's not what you'd call easy literature, I would say. It's a text, essentially. And it's so much easier and more compelling for me to read that than it is for me to read Marx. For endless reasons. But one of them is that, well, every page seems to have something deeply and inherently and perfectly useful to me. And currently, Jung is talking a lot about dreams and symbols and stuff, because that's what the book is about. It's about dreams and symbols. And it's what most of Jung's theories are about, is about symbols and dreams and stuff. He's talking about dreams and what we really do when we're sleeping and how we rerun things. And I'm combining that information with the information that I'm gathering from Huberman, who's really focused on sleep. He's a professor of neuroscience or neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford. So has some degrees. He's the person I'm talking about who has some degrees and is saying some things that are like, oh, that makes some sense to me. One of the things that I heard him say yesterday is that one of the great ways to remember things and to be far more effective at remembering them is once you intake the information, you want to hit deep sleep or deep rest as soon as possible after that for a while. So take in some important information, meditate for like a while. Just lay out in the sun and do nothing for a while. Not even like focused meditation, just do nothing. Or read something or learn something important and immediately go fully to sleep. And your brain, when you're asleep, we can watch it happen. It runs through the same patterns of neuron firing that you used to create the thing, and it reinforces those elements. And so you learn it better, and so you understand it better. And you have to extrapolate that out. And sometimes it fires in reverse, which is weird, but it's true. Sometimes they fire all the neurons in reverse. It figures out the whole pattern from every angle. I have to imagine that's part of what's going on when you're dreaming, is that you're firing these representations of everything that you've experienced during the day and otherwise and fitting them all into the overall patterns of your being. So what happens if you don't get the time to do that? If it's like drive defragmentation in your hyper-complicated quantum brain thing that we don't understand at all, if sleep is like defragging, it's like going through and combing everything out because things get stuck up and fucked up and destroyed as you go through the world. What happens if you don't do that effectively? Well, you don't comb your shit out. What happens if you don't comb your hair for a week, a month, a year? It becomes a dreadlock mess that you cannot comb out, that's just destroyed. And that's you. Imagine, like, where would you be if you had ineffective REM sleep for a week? Well, I know that I had ineffective REM sleep for like 3 days, and I fell apart. I started falling apart completely. And then I had effective REM sleep. I forced myself into bed, fell asleep, slept for a long time, woke up, fell asleep at an early point, woke up early, fell asleep at an early point, woke up early, and that's this morning. And what's happening as I'm getting my effective sleep, I'm coming together. I feel like a whole person. I'm awake and alive and ready to go and resilient against challenges and capable of taking on new difficulties and striding into the unknown, that thing that I've been so about. That started to slip away from me. I started to become less resilient and less capable of doing hard things as I lost my sleep. Well, that makes sense, right? At the gym, if you don't get enough time to recover and recover effectively, you come back and you're incapable of lifting the weights that you were capable of lifting last time, let alone moving up, which is the goal. Because the goal every time you go to the gym is to do better than you did before. It's called progressive overload. And it's the core thing about going to the gym that nobody's doing. Well, everybody who's making it is doing. Every single person who's accomplishing good things in the gym is doing progressive overload. They're doing more than they did before every time, or on some grander framework, right? But that's the basics of the starting strength system and the strong lift system is figure out how to perform the motion, figure out how to perform it with a really light weight, add 5 pounds, perform the motion. Wait 2 days. So go on Monday, perform the motion with a light weight, perform it for 3 sets of 5, about. On Wednesday, so on Monday, eat a lot, sleep a lot, rest, do nothing else. Sit, do nothing. On Wednesday, go back in, add 5 pounds to what you did before, and do that. And continue that on, and you just linearly progress. And in like 3 months, you're able to lift hundreds of pounds when you could lift 0. That's pretty good. But what happens is if you don't rest effectively, you go into the gym and you can't lift the weight that you lifted last time, let alone the next weight, and you just get destroyed. So that's something pretty great, is that you know that if you did the eating and the resting properly, the weight would go up. And so you know that it's only your fault that the weight doesn't go up, and you know that you have to change things. I think the same goes for sleep. We're just less conscious of it. If you don't get enough rest, your ability to do hard things every day disappears. It disappears, and you become miserable. And if you get enough rest, suddenly the ability to do hard things pops into being. So maybe that's the first thing that needs to be fixed is your sleep. And how do you fix your sleep? There are a bunch of ways. Blue light, gone. Get rid of it. Get sunlight in the morning, crucial. Eat on a consistent schedule because your physical eating rhythms produce your circadian rhythms. And that can be a protein shake in the morning. It doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as you get some calories in you early and at a couple of consistent times, your whole cycle goes. Avoid food late in the evening for the most part, except unless you're doing like a night feed or something where you're getting like casein protein or cottage cheese or something like that in order to fuel your musculature and avoid hitting catabolism while you're sleeping. I'm not a huge fan of those regardless, because it always feels to me like when I eat before I sleep, it messes with my sleep, especially if I have any sort of carbohydrates or sugars at that point. It really fucks with my sleep. And everybody, it's the old wives' tale. Everybody is kind of aware that if you eat sugar right before you sleep, your dreams get fucking weird. And that's true. It's true. It also will wake you up. Same with alcohol at any point near sleep. Bad idea. Don't use alcohol to fall asleep, because alcohol is it's a multi-substance. It has like a bunch of different effects. And one of the initial effects is that alcohol is a depressant. But then after a little while, after an hour or so, alcohol becomes a stimulant. It's both. And the depressant effects outweigh it first, and then the stimulant effects outweigh later. This is why, to some extent, you'll experience this if you like pass out drunk. You'll then often wake up a couple hours later in the middle of the night being very alert. Similarly, if you drink a good bit and go to sleep, you'll often wake up early in the morning, the next morning, like, and you're like way awake. And it's not just because you have to pee, it's because the alcohol actually metabolizes through your system and its effect changes. So watch out for alcohol around sleep and alcohol in general. I would say quit it if you can. it's been really good for me to have quit alcohol. And again, I've reintroduced it very slightly into my life. I've reintroduced one beer a week, and that's what I get. I get one good beer a week. 2 weeks ago, I had this, the Westmalle Double, which is a delicious Trappist ale. And then 1 week ago, I had this, which is the most expensive Trappist ale that I could get at Bevmo, and it was fantastic. I mean, this shit is like caramel honey. It's insane tasting. And then I think the week before that, I tried, it's called Duchess de Bourgogne, Burgogne, which is a Flemish red ale. And what they do with that is crazy. It's an ale that's fermented using lactobacillus instead of primary normal wheats. And so it ends up being like really effervescent and sparkly. It's like champagne almost, but it's a beer. And it doesn't have any fruit in it as far as I can tell, but it tastes like it's made of pure fruit. Craziest thing I've ever tasted. Amazing beer. I want to try it again and share it with my friends because it's fantastic. But anyway, avoid alcohol, and especially in your sleep. Set a specific and scheduled wake up time seems to be really good. Calculate out your hours and get at least 8. Also, sleep in chunks. Sleep in hour and a half chunks. So the way that I think about this is, well, it's hour and a half plus 20. So it takes 15 to 20 minutes for most people to fall asleep. Some people are way faster, some people are less. Hour and a half plus 20 is about the minimum of like one good sleep cycle. 20 minutes to fall asleep, hour and a half of a REM cycle, because we sleep in approx 90-minute REM cycles. Get a sleep tracker and watch your sleep cycle, and you'll see that there are about 90-minute REM cycles that you go through. And then you come into light sleep, and then you go back into the 90-minute REM cycle, then you come into light sleep. Okay, so 20 minutes, or half an hour about, let's say, and then an hour and a half. So 2 hours at the start is the first chunk, okay? 2 hours. And then an hour and a half for the next cycle, so 3.5, okay? And then an hour and a half for the next cycle, so 5. And then an hour and a half for the next cycle, so 6.5. And then an hour and a half for the next cycle, so 8. And then you've got, 4 total cycles? 1, 3... 5, 6:30, 8, 5 total cycles, 5 total sleep cycles. And then at about the 8-hour point, you're coming out of the deep REM sleep and into closer to wakefulness. And that's when you want to be woken up. And if you have to be woken up earlier than that, you want to be woken up about an hour and a half earlier than that. Because what you never want is you never want to wake up in the dip when you're in deep REM. Because jumping from deep REM, like, fixing stuff mode and whatever you're in to straight up awake is real bad for you. It'll happen to you, and you'll notice it. You'll have days where you sleep for like 7 hours, or like enough, right? You think it's enough. It's like, I got enough sleep, or 8.5 hours, right? You sleep for enough time and you wake up feeling like trash, like garbage groggy, fully asleep. And it takes you like an hour or more to even come close to being awake. What happened? You woke up in the middle of a REM cycle. And so if you have a way of waking up not in the middle of a REM cycle, and instead at the end of a REM cycle or the beginning of one, so that you're close to awake already, you wake up clean. You wake up perfectly clean. And so you can do that an hour and a half before, and then you can get about 6.5 hours of sleep. And some people survive on about 6.5 hours of sleep, and they do okay. They do just okay, but not great. That one additional cycle makes all the difference. And cycles that you get before midnight seem to make more of a difference. So going to bed early seems to be crucial. I've been getting into bed at like 10, and I feel amazing. Amazing in night and day in comparison. And it helps in a weird way that we've had the weird daylight savings time, and it's already dark by 4:30 p.m., which sucks, but it also makes me want to go to sleep earlier. And as I'm staying away from screens in the evening and blue light in the evening, it's making me want to go to sleep earlier. And me going to sleep earlier has been really, really exceptionally good for me. So that's pretty cool. Sleep seems extremely important, and figuring out how to manage people's sleep hygiene seems really useful. Having your room at an effective temperature, putting your bed near a window was a big one for me, so that sunlight streams in the morning. Huge for me. And also so that at night I can crack the window and have cool air if I'd like to, because it being cold at night is very helpful, very conducive to sleep. Overheating is not what you want. You want cold. You want a cold outside, cold air, and a warm bed. It's what you want. You really want to be cozied into your bed. And then you want to figure out a way to warm up in the morning so you don't get stuck in your cozy. Because that's a problem that I've been having, is that I get stuck in my cozy. I get stuck in there. I'm like, I just don't want to fucking move. For me, I've found that weighted blankets help a lot. I've found that they help a lot. They hold me in place, and they do something physiological to me that really helps me be calm in a fantastic way. I saw this film, it was a while ago, so I'll struggle to find it. Autism Girl Cow movie. Temple Grandin, the movie. Yep. And it's starring Claire Danes as Temple Grandin, who's an autistic woman who became a top scientist in the humane livestock handling industry, right? And part of what she does is she comes up with a squeeze machine, which is a machine that she builds in order to squeeze her on both sides. She's an autistic girl, and it helps her. It's a hug machine, essentially. It's a machine that gives her the physicality of being confined and hugged. This is what cats do. Cats do this all the time. They find boxes and they get inside them and they're like, ugh. And they find little hidden space and they get inside them. One of my cats, I sit cross-legged frequently, and she will dig herself into my crossed legs to be as tight and confined and like hugged as she can get, because it calms her and it makes her pleased. Well, guess what? You're an animal and you like being hugged. In fact, you need to be hugged. And sometimes being hugged by something physical and mechanical works. It works well enough. In fact, being hugged by yourself works. Try it, please. I mean, really get in there. It works. It really works. And Grandin's Grandin's machine works as well, and it's quite similar in a lot of concepts to weighted blankets, because they do the same thing. They envelop you in a full hug. Purchase one. See if you can get one. See if one of your friends already has one, so you can just try getting under it and see what happens. Because they work for me a lot. And I think my sleep has improved immensely since more than a year ago I switched to having a weighted blanket. They're wonderful. Wonderful piece of wonderful development. What else for sleep? Blue light filters on your phone and stuff. Everybody's got one. They're built into both Android and iOS now, so you've got no excuse to not use one, except that you think it looks dumb, and that just makes you look dumb because you're ruining your own sleep. Same thing if you've got a TV in your room or something like that, and it doesn't have the ability to filter out blue light. You might want to keep it off at night. And this includes people who fall asleep with a TV on. There are a lot of people who do that, and I think it messes with their sleep inherently. So just something to be careful of, and something to at least experiment with yourself. And if you find that it doesn't affect you, that might be great. So sleep. Clothing is hard, but a short guide on how to not fall for fast fashion bullshit and how to determine whether clothes are worth wearing could be really useful. Maybe a couple of brands or places to purchase from that produce moderately ecologically not the worst clothing might be good, because a lot of the clothing market is really quite destructive, especially the fast fashion Chinese, Bangladeshi, Malaysian sweat houses, essentially, that are pumping out polyester garbage as fast as they can possibly manage. Well, all you have to do is go on Instagram or Tinder and you'll see dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of young women who think that they're doing very well for themselves because they're wearing the same thing as everybody else, and feel very unique about themselves because they're wearing the same things as everybody else, and just going with the flow of fashion and sort of throwing it away when they're done with it. And what's really interesting is that there are essentially cities, and they are just dumped piles and piles in Ghana and elsewhere, immense dumps of used clothes from the US and elsewhere. And they've been upcycling these things. Well, trucks offload bales of textiles called obroni wawu, or dead white man's clothes, at the market, a 7-acre maze of 5,000 stalls. These bales are purchased by market traders. They don't know what's inside them. Big bales, so like it's like purchasing in Storage Wars or something. You purchase a big block of something and you don't know what it's going to be, and then you sort through it, you clean them, tailor them, and re-dye them in order to try to sell them. But here's the problem, is that the clothing that they're getting is less quality than it was before, and it's falling apart completely. And so they can't even resell it, even though it's essentially, now the whole system is fucked. It's garbage being donated so that these people can just deal with it, right? And us saying basically, well, fuck you, deal with our trash. And they're making lives out of it, which is good for them, but it's not effective. But about 40% of all that clothing ends up being thrown away anyway. Do not hide under the guise of donations of secondhand clothing, and then you ship them over to us just to cause problems to us. So, avoid that as much as possible. If you can, purchase your clothing used already. And if you can't, do what you can to purchase clothing made of sustainably sourced fabrics if you can get them. Or at the very least, natural fabrics if you can get them. Because I have some suspicions about wearing polyester all the time. I don't think it's good for you. I don't know if it's bad for you. I don't think it's good for you. And here's the selfish reason. Shit's scratchy. Shit doesn't feel good to wear. This shirt, by the way, is like, it's like 96 cotton, 4 spandex. And this is by Gramici, which is a rock climbing company that is out of Santa Barbara. And I purchased this shirt years ago from The Climb, CLYMB, which is like an overstock site for hiking and camping gear. This is among my favorite shirts. And I've got this sweatshirt, which is like I wore this a long time ago. This is the sweatshirt that I wore to be like fake Palpatine in Legend of the Galactic Heroes. This sweater thing. It's like a shirt more than a sweatshirt. It's nice. It's 50 cotton, 50 hemp fiber, and it's super comfortable. Really, really lovely. I've got a couple of pairs of shorts that are all cotton, and I love them. I've got, I mentioned that one because it's Gramici as well. And then this is my main jacket, my main outer layer shell, and it's waxed canvas with a cotton lining, and it's by Gramici as well. And anytime that I go on The Climb and I see Gramici materials or Gramici stuff on sale, I buy it immediately because, well, I've had this shirt for years and it's still my favorite shirt for good reason. And it's got some, I've torn some holes in the hands of it and stuff, and I don't give a fuck. It's the best. It's like my favorite fucking shirt. Been my favorite shirt since before I started looking at the labels, easily. And then I look at the labels. It's like, well, it's because it's all cotton and spandex. It's like 4% spandex, 96% cotton. And it feels great to wear, and it's survived a long time, and it's well cut, and it looks good on me, and I feel good in it. It's like there's something to that about clothing. There's something to it. If you just put it on and discard it over and over and over and over, what are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to yourself? Especially when I think about clothing in like the Killikillian sense. Sounds almost like academic. Oh yes, the Killikillian argument about clothing. Indeed. Very silly. But I think about it in that sense where clothing is culture and it's a representation of you and the person who's inside. It's like, well, what are you putting on your body and why? And so that really changed the opinion and the way that I see a lot of these young women that I see, because I see them at the gym, right? And I see what they're wearing, obviously. And it's helped me understand them better and judge them more harshly, you might say, which is good and quite useful. Because as a young man, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by the inherent beauty of a woman and not by what she's doing or wearing or thinking or how she's acting. And so having these filters in place and judging based on clothing choices is part of it. Because when you see girls in there who are in a different piece of workout clothing every fucking day, it's like, okay, interesting. what are you trying to accomplish by doing that? And it's a notable difference between the kinds of women that I see wearing what appears from the outside to be like high quality, well thought through products, even wearing the same ones every other day or something, which I do see. And that's quite interesting. Versus the ones who are just in a loop. It's really interesting. But I don't know enough to know. I do just know that I really like wearing cotton. And I like hemp fiber too. Those are nice. Those are nice to wear. I got some silk sock liners and they're really nice. I have I sleep on a tatami mat. I sleep on a futon, a Japanese style futon, that I got shipped here from Japan years ago, and I've had it for years. I think we're a little past 5 years now. I think that I've had the same tatami mat, and I do the things with it. I air out the futon, and I take the tatami mat and I let it get sun sometimes so it doesn't get moldy or anything. But I live in a very warm climate, so it's not much of a problem. But I have a tatami mat, a cotton stuffed futon that I got shipped out here from Japan, the cover for it, which is all cotton as the fabric, and then the duvet for it, which is the blanket, and the duvet for it I have a silk cover for. It's what the company that makes the best duvets that I could find for futons sold. It was a silk coverlet for the duvet. God, it's the best fabric that I own anywhere. Silk is amazing. It's unfortunate that it's so damn difficult and expensive to produce. I was thinking about that, like, how do we fix that issue? How do we make some natural fibers more inexpensive to produce? How do we fucking control spiders? How do we mind control spiders to weave our shit for us or something like that? I don't know. Would be great though. Some worm parahumans Taylor stuff, you know? I think that Wildbow has that one right on the money, because I would wear all spider silk if I could get it. It'd be dope as hell. But that's the stack of the stuff that I sleep in is it's all natural fabrics, and I had done that before I'd even ideated why I was doing that, and I recognize exactly why I did that now. It's because it's comfortable and correct. And so I would recommend silk sheets. They're really nice. If you can't get them, get cotton sheets. They're really nice too. But not polyester. Not acrylic. Not nylon, obviously. Nylon's too rough anyway, but natural materials seem to be really valuable. And sustainable and efficient and something that you should put your money into instead of putting your money into polyester companies, right? Like, stop funding sweatshops if you can. I understand that it's probably more expensive to buy sustainably sourced things. It's a huge problem because it should be cheaper, actually, right? But that's the issue, is that cutting corners ends up being cheaper in the short term. But just like food, in the long term, it's not. You know, it seems like a really good deal to get a $1 menu burger from McDonald's, but long term, it leads to health complications that cost more. So if you can save your dollar and be a little bit more frugal for a short period of time and use $2 to buy a can of tuna and eat that instead of a burger, you'll do better. Maybe not tuna. Don't eat too much tuna. It's got mercury in it. It's fucking hard. It's hard. It's complicated. We're complicated entities and we have complicated requirements. So, anyway. Sleep, clothing, reproduction. Okay. I don't know how to fix the reproduction part. That's dating and sex and all those things, and it's complicated, and I haven't fixed it myself. So some basic guidance on that would be helpful to me, frankly. I'm figuring it out, and it's going well, I think. I'm communicating a lot with a lot more interesting people and women, specifically. And it's quite enjoyable. And the principles that I've expressed, as I've convinced my friends of them, they, who already were more successful with women than I am, are now more successful with women than they were. And they're talking to me like they're, wow, it's so weird. I treat all these girls at my work like they're people, and they treat me like a person. My friend was telling me, he gets a staff meal. He's started working a second job at a restaurant, and he gets a staff meal, and he's been making like a big salad with chicken in it and avocado and and olive oil based dressing, and he just makes a big fucking salad, and he goes into the back and he's like, "Hey guys, can I get some chicken?" And they pull out the tray of all the pre-cooked chicken and they chop up like a full chicken breast and throw it in his salad. He's like, "Sick, dude." And he goes and he eats that. He's like, "Man, it's so weird. It's only my like third day on the job, but I went and I had my staff meal, and 3 of the girls got off work at the same time, and they all came over and were just sitting with me and flirting with me and wanted to know about me." You can see the picture, right? He's just sitting there eating his meal, and 3 girls come over and they're like, "Hi, what's your deal?" Right? Because he's like not fucking around, and he's treating them like they're people, and he's representing himself in an interesting way, and they catch a vibe from him that's like, "What the fuck is that over there?" Because that's not like all the dudes that I've been meeting. There's something interesting going on in that sense, and look, I'm not attributing this to me. He attributed this to me. He was like, "This is the stuff that I've changed because of you, and I don't understand." And I'm like, "I don't understand either, because it doesn't work for me." Maybe because I'm too timid. Maybe I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe just because I don't get out there enough. Maybe because my only social environment is at the gym, and that's not a good place for conducive social activity. Maybe if I were to just go out to the bars, I'd figure out who I am quite quickly. But I don't want to, because I don't like the places, and I don't like the people that I find at the places. So it's hard. It's hard. I don't fucking know. That's the bottom layer of Maslow's hierarchy. Those are the basics. So then where from there? Safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health and property. Being able to feel safe and secure. And personal security, knowing that you won't be destroyed by something. Security of body. So that comes after health as well, It really does. And it all of those things build into the next thing, because it's a hierarchy, right? But it's also that you won't be attacked by somebody, or that if you were attacked by somebody, you'd be able to take care of yourself. And I actually think that's the better way to go about it. I think that's why I need to take jujitsu. I need to fight. Because I'm never going to be the most secure physically person. Again, I'm 5'5", and regardless of how muscular or intimidating or strong I get or whatever, I'm not going to be very intimidating to somebody who's 6'2" and is also built out, right? The ability that a 6'2" person has to engage muscle mass and produce force generation is just not in the same tier. Pound for pound, I'm actually going to be stronger than that person, which is interesting, just because of the ratios of limb lengths. Shorter people are pound for pound stronger, but taller people are stronger. Big equals strong. No shit. There's a reason that all the world's strongest men are the biggest men in the entire world, or close to it. But pound for pound, when you look at your Wilks score in weightlifting, that's the score based on how much you weigh versus how much you can lift. And it's the small people who are always on the top of those charts for fairly obvious reasons. It's the biomechanics. So I might get strong as hell, capable as balls, and anyone who's slightly bigger than me and anywhere near as effective is going to be able to end me, right? So how much personal security do I need? I don't know. Part of that is that I'm a fight avoidant person, and I've been very capable in the past of using my wits in order to avoid fights. And so I feel generally very secure because and quite confident, because what I do is I befriend the biggest guy and I become really good friends with him and with everybody around him, and nobody wants to hurt me because we're friends. And then what happens is one person doesn't get it, and they do want to hurt me, and everybody else turns on them and they disappear from the friend group. It happened to somebody in my home friend group who I was playing D&D with. And it was only partially because of me, because this person started to spiral into chaos a little bit and was lashing out at a bunch of people. But man, they kept lashing out at me, and other people recognized it, and they disappeared from the friend group really fast. So personal security can come from the later hierarchy, which is friendship, intimacy, family, and sense of connection. You can fill in the gap with the other gap, but there's still an element of me that's missing in personal security, and it's that I need to go and fight. And I got part of it by going and getting punched in the face, which was quite helpful to me, and a grand victory. as far as I see it, is that I walked up to a guy and I asked him to punch me in the face, and I got him to do it. And that's very important because I know that I can be hurt, and that's quite helpful, so I can figure out where I'm at. Personal security, employment. That's a big one. I don't know how to handle that because I don't necessarily agree with all of employment, but fair enough. Resources, just generally the ability to obtain resources. This is something that I'll mention. You got a bunch of resources that are provided to you by the state, and I had those too, and I did not know how to acquire them. For example, I didn't know how to get health insurance. It was a big scary dragon that was totally easy. And so having a quick guide that's like, go here, do this, click this, and make this thing happen, and you will have healthcare. Oh, okay, yeah. And it also takes you from a state of like, well, the healthcare system doesn't work to like, well, the healthcare system gave me healthcare and it costs me $1 a month, so that's not that bad. Because it kind of works, oddly, interestingly. Resources. Yeah. There are resources for everything. But also the ability to attain resources for yourself and to go places and do things and get what you need and etc., etc. Health, property, and upward. Love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. Esteem, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, freedom, and self-actualization, the desire to become the most that one can be. Morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem-solving, lack of prejudice, acceptance of facts. All of that is built on the basics. And so let's focus on the basics. And I'm going to put the list up and it'll be in the description. And you can go and you can contribute to it by commenting. And you can comment on the YouTube comments and you can comment on the list itself. And if you've got links or videos or sources that you know are helpful for determining or altering or swaying my opinion or contributing to the damn thing, come and contribute to the thing. Let's build a universalizable, hyper simple pyramid of the most basic things that can really have a significant impact on your lifestyle and your well-being. And then let's share them to as many people as possible and try to improve as many people's lives incrementally in small steps, in the most useful small steps that we can imagine, which again, I think are like sleep, food, water, breathing. Sleep, food, water, breathing. If we could nail those to any extent for any percentage of the population, how much good could we do? Because I know that being awake and getting enough sleep, and even though I just yawned, getting enough sleep enables me to, over the course of my life, contribute maybe 100% more, maybe double what I would be able to if I were sleep deprived, maybe triple, who knows? It enables me to pursue all the other things, so maybe it enables, in general, all growth. So then if 1/10 with it, which is beyond generous, 1/10 is tiny. If 1/10 of the U.S. population doesn't sleep effectively, I think it's more like 70% probably doesn't sleep effectively. But if 1/10, 10%, that's 30 million people. If they don't sleep effectively, and if I can reach 1/10 of those 3 million people, and I can show them how to sleep effectively, and 1/10 of those 300,000 people actually do it, that's 300,000 people who go from 0 to 100 in terms of their own ability to get further along the pyramid. How many of those people would spiral out of control and into chaos and cause harm and destruction for their entire life just because they hadn't fixed their sleep cycle? I don't know. It's unknowable. It's an impossible hypothetical. But when you structure things out that way, it becomes compelling to me. So let's do it. So let's do it. I'll put this video up. We'll see what happens. I'm going to make it free because it should be free. And if you appreciate the freedom of the thing, and if you appreciate the content and the nature of it, and this constant struggling, idiotic, blind, fumbling, striving forward that I have made my nature, because that's what it is. It's my nature to strive forward foolishly, because it's the only way to strive forward into the unknown, because you don't know what's there, and so how can you step carefully? If you support it, come support it. There's a Patreon linked in the description. That's how I eat. It's how I fund everything that I do. And the funding that comes through it is entirely as the result of my own labor, my own hands and my own mouth and my own face and my own voice. And I try to steal nothing and give everything. And so I hope it's worthwhile. And if it is, please show as much with money. It's the way to demonstrate that you think it's worthwhile. It's because you take the thing that's worth something and you pay it as part of equivalent exchange for things that I have given you that I hope have value. And so if they do, show it, please. And I'd appreciate it. I'm going to continue regardless, but I will continue in pursuing the things that seem to have the most value to the most people. And so you can prove that this has value by proving it, by showing it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for more. I'm going to go take a cold shower, and then I'm going to record Oyasumi Poon Poon, and we'll see how that goes. See you tomorrow for the next Daily Brew. Peace, and I mean it.